I so agree with you, Professor, about the 60s. I was in charge of the 60s. We know what happened there. When you work in today's policy areas, you're basically working with either people who are from the 60s, because now they have the bureaucratic positions, or people that are younger who have grown up with a totally different set of cultural guideposts. And I want to say that in the field, and I'm referring specifically to working with high school children or middle school children, it is getting so scary for us because we are desperate to have the benefits of the research that you're talking about be understood by specifically those people in policy areas. And I give you one example. I'm from New Jersey. We are, as a specific example, we are in the process of applying Title V funds in New Jersey for abstinence education so that young children can just simply learn that high-risk behavior doesn't get you the goods in life and that you can prepare for a better adulthood by avoiding those behaviors. We are almost prohibited from using the word marriage, from talking about marriage, from promoting the benefits of marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is literally frightening to think, because the logical conclusion of that is that we're going to have more and more people who don't know the value, don't aspire to that value in their life, and are going to be more, they're going to provide us more examples of what it looks like when you don't.
Thank you. I'm going to summarize that. Let's take a few, actually, lump them together, but I'm going to summarize that as, should education be doing more and better than it is? How important is that? Do you agree that we're falling down on the job there? I hope that's a reasonable description. Let's take another one or two and get a conversation going.
My comment is an elaboration on the same.
Okay.
Just I want to compliment you all on how beautifully you've handled the problem. How the facts are there and how little connection between the facts and behavior, the gap. And I also love that you came up with one of the solutions I'm most in love with, and I'd like to know how we can foster that, which is Hollywood, TV, and online. Have we connections? Is there anything happening? I've been very happy to see a few films that, if you're listening carefully, and I love your phrase of, talking the 60s and living the 50s, some of the 30 to 40-year-old filmmakers making these ridiculous films, if you really listen, the bottom line is, but wait a minute, you might want to have one ongoing relationship that's special for a marriage. Is anyone really in connection? And if not, what can we do? Because I really think that connection between bringing these facts into a really palatable, media-friendly, positive. Anybody doing that?
Since those two both relate to education and culture, let's take those as a group and talk about ideas for penetrating. Elizabeth, did you have
one of the things that I think, on the one hand, you can get really depressed about media these days because it seems like all media in the world is owned by, one person who I won't name, and, it seems hopeless. And yet, on the other hand, we live in a very rich time with, the internet and the explosion of just anybody can go online and make something, and most of it's crap, but it also allows for a lot of creativity. And there's 20-somethings, young people out there who are exploiting this, and many of them have been impacted by these trends and have something to say about it. And I'm really hopeful about what's coming out of them, and the screenplays and the viral videos and the interesting, kind of potential there. I do know there's also, I'm not in league with these folks, but there are folks who have worked with Hollywood producers, and there are people concerned about strengthening the family and images of the family in Hollywood. I'm not an expert on that, but there are folks out there. But I just wanted to, I think there is real hope now in the people who were impacted by these losses having so much ability to tell their stories now.
How about education, schools? Has any of the three of you looked at that? What's in the curriculum, what's not in the curriculum, what should be? Maybe outside our
Well, I'll tell you
purview.
my opinion, and I'm a complete cave person, to use the proper term, about this.
That's what they call it in law school.
Cave person.
Cave person.
I firmly believe that this is the reason there should be no sex education in the schools, because it will be corrupted by the politically correct diversity police in these perverse ways. There should be zero, okay? It doesn't belong there because it will be captured by these subversive forces. Sex education is for parents. And if you don't have parents, then I guess you won't be getting any.
Kind of coming at it from a different angle.
I'm going to say
that's the point of view, but I would just want to say that one hopeful
I
thing.
know no one agrees with me, but I
don't agree with you.
I'm one, as you know, Jonathan, I'm one who's had concerns about legalizing gay marriage, redefining marriage, and what that might mean in terms of how we talk about mothers and fathers. However, one hopeful thing that I hope might come out of, gay marriage being legal in a number of states in America and a number of places around the world is maybe it'll be okay to talk about marriage again, like in school. So maybe your argument that
my view
if
is
everybody's supposed to just get married, gay or straight, then maybe that'll be good for marriage. So I'm willing to hope that you were right all along.
What I hope for in my book. I have, from the point of view of someone who's married to a man, I am living the 50s and talking the 60s.
You do have a pretty conventional life, I have to say.
I have a very conventional life, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have a conventional life. We've been only married a year, but together, cohabiting because the law forced us to shack up until last year, for now 16 years, and if we make it another 4, we'll do better than my parents did, which would be nice. And what I've been trying to tell people for a long time is that gay marriage is more part of the solution than part of the problem. How do you renorm marriage and make it an automatic rule, everyone should get married? If you're in a relationship, get married. You don't do it by carving out a whole bunch of very visible people, often with kids, and saying, except for you guys, you should shack up. That's going to be read as ifs, ands, or buts, and another reason why marriage is just a lifestyle alternative. If you want to encourage marriage, you've got to encourage marriage for everyone, which is why I've always seen, actually, on grounds that I think are consistent with Amy's story, gay marriage as part of the renorming of marriage. That's my riff. That was the one I was going to give while the camera moves, so you got to hear it.
Can I make one tiny little comment? I think to say everyone should get married, no conservative would ever believe that. Obviously, there's variation in human preference.
It's a social, cultural
I'm saying
message.
that is the core expectation for most people.
Right. But
And
that's
there
what
are
a norm
always
is.
going to be people who deviate from the expectation for most. And conservatives with a small c have always tolerated that, but the people on the margin should never think that they're the main event.
Sure. A cultural norm means a default assumption.
Right.
What you do if you don't have to think about it. And that's very hard to defend if you're making separate stories for gays and straights and everything else. It's setting up alternatives. Let's take another question.